first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's wife I owe her nothing? I see her as needy, clingy, overly emotional, and annoying. She sees me as cold, mean, and selfish. She married my dad when I was 9 and forced herself into things I didn't want her in, and honestly, things she didn't belong in, given the circumstances. And by that, I mean, I had known her for 3 months because she and my dad had a long-distance relationship, and we hadn't spent that much time together prior. The things she tried to force herself into were the traditions I had with my mom. She pushed her way to be there for every single one of them. My friendships. She would tell me who I should and I shouldn't be friends with, and really pushed friendships on me when she hardly knew me. Then again, she heard more about me from my dad than I ever heard about her. She pushed herself into my grief. She always claimed I needed to talk and open up with her, not just to anyone, but to her. She would demand it, follow me around trying to get it. And then she invited herself along to my therapy, which then invalidated therapy for me because I refused to participate with such a new person there. She was very much into the idea that our relationship came before other relationships, and so she would make me spend time with her over my friends because I was resistant to her. My dad was pretty quiet during it all, and honestly, I didn't blame him enough back in the day, and now he knows how I feel about his part in it all. She would hug me without consent and squeeze, so I couldn't push her off. She would try to kiss me and get annoyed if I blocked her, and she would hold my hand when I didn't like it. So, the other night, she told me she was tired of having me keep her out of my life, that she loved me and my dad and was a good stepmom and wife, and she deserved to be acknowledged, loved, and appreciated for it. I didn't answer her, which made her angrier, and she snapped, and she told me I was being mean to her for no reason. And then I told her that just because my dad loved her didn't mean I did or would, and I didn't owe her my love or anything. I told her straight up I owed her nothing. I wanted to go deeper, but my dad stepped in and told me to apologize. This is when, for the second time, I told him he wasn't innocent in all of this either, and I let him know exactly where he messed up. We're not talking now. I wanted to say so much more, and if my dad hadn't stepped in, more home truths would have come from me. Am I the a-hole? I'm 17 female, turning 18 in less than 2 weeks. She sees everything different. So does my dad. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Forcing herself into your therapy sessions? That's totally messed up. What did the therapist say about that? Tell both of them this. You might have been willing to build trust and a familial relationship with her, but you were never given a chance. She bulldozed her way into your life, started demanding your affection and your time, and demanding you love and trust her as a mother when you barely knew her and missed your actual mom. It didn't feel like love. It felt like an attack, and some of her actions border on downright abuse. You cannot be forced to love someone. You understand she wanted a relationship, but she needs to understand trust and love are earned, not demanded. And your dad needs to understand that. Even though he loves her, protecting you should have been his first priority. He allowed her to force herself on you and did nothing about it. You're happy he found love, but he needs to understand his wonderful new family was a living nightmare for you because you had no privacy, even at therapy. The therapist asked her to leave. She said we needed it, and she was going to stay. She told her, the therapist, that if she wasn't willing to help us, then she was going to find someone who would. Yeah, that's messed up. Point that out as an example. She wanted it. You didn't. The therapist was helping you, but stepmom didn't care what you needed, therapy/privacy. Stepmom only cared about what she wanted to be up in your life. So, her desires came at your expense, yet again. Yep, and I have not been to therapy since. I might start back up with another therapist when I am independent of them, but it left a sour taste in my mouth. Also, I really needed that therapy, which sucks even more. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my sister, brother-in-law, and their kids after months of living in chaos? During the middle of the pandemic, my brother-in-law got laid off, and because they could no longer afford rent, my sister, her husband, and their 3 kids, age 5 to a newborn, moved in with me. I, 22 male, live in a small flat, but since I work nights and sleep most of the day, it's sort of like they live in the flat, and I'm just some random guy. I understand that kids are very hard to take care of, but I expected my sister to at least try and keep the flat clean. That would be a hard no, since every time I come home, there's dirty dishes all over the place and toys on the floor, and it just smells awful. I don't know what it is, and neither does my sister evidently, but it's terrible. The eldest colored all over the wall and spilled juice all over my rug. She also broke several fragile glass figurines that I inherited from my mother, who has passed away. My sister, we don't share the same mother, disregarded all of these things, and when I got upset, just told me to get over it because her kid didn't mean it. I've had to get rid of a chair because the second eldest vomited all over it, and nothing that saved it. The youngest cried a lot, and it understandably irritated my neighbors, who never said anything to the landlady but did come over multiple times to complain. I have sat my sister down and explained my frustrations to her multiple times, but she just doesn't care. I have tried to explain everything to my brother-in-law, but he is rarely home, despite not having a job yet, even though it's been months. The kids were up at the same time that I was asleep, and they constantly ran in and out of my room, screaming their little heads off. I love them, really, but I couldn't deal with that, especially since you have to be alert and present in my line of work. Security guard. The final straw for me was that somebody, more than likely the eldest child, let loose my leopard geckos. It took hours, and although I finally managed to find all of them, it was the last straw that broke the camel's back, and I told my sister that she had to leave and that I couldn't take it anymore. It's been a week since then. I have gotten no word from my sister, but the rest of our family has been calling non-stop, demanding to know how I could just kick my niece and nephews onto the street. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If your family is so worried, they can take them in themselves. A small flat is no place for a family of 5. Some people have absolutely no concept of how to take care of kids. They just don't understand how kids work at all, lol. Yet they go on and have plenty of them and hope they figure it out in the process. I'm wondering what the brother-in-law does all day considering he doesn't have a job. Definitely not the a-hole, because you are getting noise complaints, and on top of that, are destroying your property and your flat. They should have been thankful that they had a free place to stay. Yet, a single flat for 6 people is ridiculous. Maybe she should parent her kids better, not expect you to just go with it, because the kids that mean break something. He hides from his wife and monster brood. Opie is not the a-hole. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to share a windfall with my heavily pregnant stepdaughter who normally pretends I don't exist? Hello all. I entered a raffle 18 months ago and won a house in my name. I wasn't expecting to win, and the house is worth a few bob. So as you can imagine, I'm over the moon since I paid a couple of quid for the entry. It's tucked away in Wales, where I will never settle or live. I'm in south of England, but I entered on a whim, and as I say, wasn't really expecting to win. I'm in my 40s and have some younger half-siblings, all of whom I love very much and would like to care for. My stepdaughter is a similar age, is pregnant. She was raised in a very stable home with love and attention to her education from both her dad and mom. However, at present, she isn't working because of MH issues. She doesn't have her own home and has moved in with her out-of-work boyfriend who we think has overstayed his visa. So really, I understand she is in a precarious position. I was never especially close with her because she resented I was with her dad. No cheating or anything. She just felt I was in the way, as kids often do. Despite me trying very hard to form a relationship with her. I can't have my own bio children and was very keen to gain a daughter/friend, but life circumstances have meant it's been hard to relate to her or her to me. When I found out about the house, I wanted to gift it to my younger 2 siblings. Both work from home and would love the house. They had 0 advantages growing up. In fact, due to their mom being a person of color, I feel they had more disadvantages, and they live in a rough area of London at present. I think they deserve it, and they'd love it. Husband and I have no inclination to move, and we could sell it on, but we don't want to right now. My stepdaughter, on the other hand, is extremely well connected and has lots of benefits that have helped her along, and although I empathize with her MH struggles and pregnancy, I also know that she will hopefully be fine. My husband is already supporting her with a large allowance each month, as well as her mom. She called me after months of not properly speaking to me to ask when she can move in. I had discussed clearly with my husband the plan for the house, to which he agreed, and was surprised. I said she's not getting the house. She was pretty shocked and said she's pregnant, and the house is literally right there, and why would I stop her from having a good head start? I tried to gently explain to her, but the conversation got more and more heated, with eventually her pulling her dad into it. Somehow, during the end of this conversation, both my husband and stepdaughter were crying and asking me to reconsider, saying I was being heartless and possibly even cruel by not. I honestly feel very frustrated and probably quite bitter. She was happy to not talk to me for months despite me reaching out multiple times, but the moment I have something she wants, it's, "Oh, hi, Leslie. How are you?" I just feel even more like I want to dig my heels in at this point. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole, though I suspect your spouse isn't being genuine with you. Do me a favor, lease it for £1 a month to your siblings. Keep ownership in case your marriage falls apart. But also, watch out if the marriage falls apart. The house might fall under marital assets, which may allow him, and therefore stepdaughter, to gain ownership. It's best that OP take a look with a lawyer or someone of the like to see for sure, so husband and stepdaughter can't yank the rug out from underneath your siblings, OP. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, and do not cave on this. Let your siblings live there and be caretakers of the place in your stead. This girl is entitled, presumptuous, self-centered, and rude. You owe her nothing. And as another thing to think about, if you let this girl live there, her entitlement would just keep spiking. Any little thing about the place and she'd be calling you. Baby's room isn't nice enough. You need to paint it. The tub isn't big enough. You need to get a better one in here. I want better furniture. You should buy it for me. And I wouldn't be surprised if she eventually thought of the place as hers and wanted to sell it because she needs the money, and then had a fit when you said no. Keep your firm no in place on this one, or you'll sorely regret it. No good deeds goes unpunished, and you'd pay for it dearly if you let her live there. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I wouldn't take in my half-sister if something were to happen to him? This has been on my mind for the past couple months since the discussion occurred. Backstory: my parents divorced when I was 1, and he has always just tried buying my love. We have had very heavy verbal altercations since I was around 11 from what I remember. He has caused me many of anxiety attacks and has never gone out of his way to be a dad. Around June of 2020, he broke the news that he had gotten his girlfriend of 2 years pregnant accidentally, and that a baby was born already. I didn't pay much mind because I would be leaving to Europe for college mid-September. I, 18 female, had been hanging out with my dad, 40 male, around the first week of September. I was set to move the next week, so he was trying to make up for 17 years of arguments, lack of emotional support, and overall awful parenting. One of the days, he asked if I wanted to meet the baby, to which I just said I would think about it. Then around 2 days before I leave, he asked if I had thought about it, and I decided to tell him the truth. The truth being that I didn't. She is only 2 months old, so she wouldn't even remember it. I told him that if she ever asked to meet me when she is older, then I would be fine with that. He was disappointed by this, and asked if I would take her in if something were to happen to him and his girlfriend. This is what has been on my mind. I told him that I would not consider myself an option if that were to happen. I'm moving to Europe for college because I want to stay there for my future career. To move a child being raised in the US to a European country where English isn't the primary language is not ideal. This kid has also an 18-year age difference to me, so I see no relationship between the two of us happening. I hold no ill will for this innocent child, but my dad keeps guilt-tripping me by saying that she's my sister. He also doesn't consider that his girlfriend's daughter, who is my exact age and is planning to stay in the US, an option, because I should be the first choice. Am I the a-hole for being honest with the fact that I wouldn't take in my half-sister? Edit. Sorry if it wasn't clear, but my dad's girlfriend is around his age. I'm the one that's 18, and his girlfriend has a daughter who is also 18. This is pretty straightforward, not the a-hole. Not your responsibility. Your half-sibling has options other than you. You haven't met them, and also, this is such a weird thing to be planning for on your dad's part. If he died tomorrow, an 18-year-old would be a terrible candidate for guardianship. A part of me also sees it as straightforward, but I am aware that I have a very heavy single-child mentality because I was one for 18 years and still consider myself to be. So I felt that maybe I might be being a bit too cruel. Also, it's not that weird in his mind because his dad died when he was 8 and he started working at 11 to provide for himself since he didn't like school. Third world country stuff. Not the a-hole. This child is a stranger to you and it would be an incredible burden, especially at your age. I suspect your dad is pressuring you because he thinks it will mean that you forgive him or that there isn't any real problem between the two of you. Honestly, that never crossed my mind. He has always just never acknowledged the fact that he caused me so much pain and stress, so I might be overlooking the fact that he actually might think about it. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.